This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, how you doing? It is Monday, the 18th day of December. Thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast on a busy day today. I want to warn you right off the top, warning, adult content show, adult-themed show. The news, unfortunately, not by my choosing, but I do have a little fun with it. The news of the weekend is adult-themed, some of it. Not all of the show, but a lot of it is. So I want to warn you, if there are young ears listening, and you typically listen with young ears, this is maybe not a show for them. You're the decider on that, obviously, but I wanted you to have fair warning that if you like to play this in the kitchen, if you like to play this in the car, every now and again I get notes from people that say they're listening with their very young, impressionable children, and I, being mindful of that, try to respect that and warn you in advance. So today might not be the day to crank it. I think you'll enjoy it, but it's probably not the day for all ages, all right? Coming up, I'm going to tackle a couple of different rear endings, and I'll just leave it at that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll see, okay? I also want to tell you about something very cool that I'm doing with my radio station in Philadelphia and my colleagues at the Salem Media Group who own this podcast. And I would love to invite you to be a part of this. My friend and colleague, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and his lovely wife, Katie, are taking what they're calling a Patriots Alaska cruise on June 29th through July 6th. It's a beautiful trip to Alaska. We leave from Seattle. It's 7 days, and then we're back home. I say we because I was just invited, along with Christine, to go too. So, most importantly, I'm asking you, if you're a podcast listener, if you're a show listener, if you're a harumfer, if you're all of the above, it would be our honor to cruise this beautiful countryside of Alaska over the 4th of July on this Patriots Alaska cruise. Go to patriotsalaskacruise.com, all right, patriotsalaskacruise.com if you want to know more about it, or 855-565-5519, 855-565-5519, patriotsalaskacruise.com. I'll just tell you, I have been to Alaska once with some listeners, and it was a cruise and some of the most beautiful scenery I'd ever seen. And you will love being on a cruise with like-minded listeners like you, people who share your point of view. You're much less likely to be irritated by strangers when you know that you all share a common love of country and common interests. That's what makes these listener trips so much fun. We've been to Germany and France and England and Wales and Alaska. We've taken a few trips with listeners, each one so special. I'd love to get to know you better. Bring a group, bring a couple, whatever. But hope you can join us. Again, you got all the information. Hope to see you there. It's June 29th through July 6th. 4th of July in Alaska. How cool does that sound? Also, John Ruhlman at usmedicalplan.com. That's the website, usmedicalplan.com, for all your health insurance needs. If you have not signed up for health insurance in the new year, you're a young person and you don't have it, why not? It's so dirt cheap for you if you're healthy and young. Or if you're a young person with a family, you've got a younger family, and you're paying out the nose, out of pocket for private health insurance, you could do better. You can do better than going on government-run plans, too. Government-run plans are not necessarily the cheapest, nor do they give you the best coverage. John and his team work with 80 different private health insurers to make sure you not only get the best coverage, but at the best price. Call them today at 877-410-4321, 877-410-4321, or usmedicalplan.com. Well, I'd like to report a rear ending. Fast Eddie news of a rear ending.
Chris, are there multiples? I don't...
Multiple rear endings. Yes, I actually have a couple of them to report. Of course, I'm talking about President Biden and Jill Biden's motorcade in Wilmington. One of the cars was slammed into, but we understand everyone's fine and well. President Biden, First Lady Jill Biden unharmed after a car crashed into a U.S. Secret Service vehicle guarding his motorcade near his campaign headquarters in Wilmington, Delaware, Sunday night. I don't make it up, guys. When I tell you that he comes back to Philadelphia for events and then jets right down I-95 to Wilmington for the good stuff, I'm not making it up. I have never seen, who knows what they're doing. You know, Wilmington's the home of the Hunter Biden laptop repairman. Wilmington is the home of the gun-chucking dumpsters. Wilmington's the home of everything. You notice this? David Weiss is in Wilmington. All the action surrounding Hunter Biden's in Wilmington. That's where he goes to get the good stuff. Wilmington, the city of mystery. It's now become the black hole of politics. Wilmington is where all things can happen and nobody questions and nobody asks any questions. Nobody can figure it out. Shrouded in mystery is Wilmington. Nobody knows what the hell's going on out there. But anyway, not immediately clear what caused the crash that happened just after 8 o'clock last night. Secret Service agents quickly surrounded the car, pulled weapons on the driver who held his hands up. Can you imagine wetting yourself? I don't know. For whatever reason, either you'd had a little too much to drink. What a bad day that's going to be, by the way. So it's Sunday night. You just watched the Cowboys get trounced by the Buffalo Bills. You probably had one too many. You're driving home from the bar in Wilmington. How about them Cowgirls? They really got, and you crack. Oh, hell. Already you're drunk and you know you've hit a car. Oh, man, and then people start pulling guns on you. And then you realize, once you've sobered up a bit, you've just slammed into a Secret Service vehicle of the president's. That's a bad day, Fast Eddie.
Oh, man. I can't imagine. Because, I know what it's like to get pulled over. I know what it's like, when I've seen other people hit into other cars. The Secret Service.
Yeah, I'm trying to, or here's an even worse one. Being drunk, maybe you could kind of excuse it. Here's a worse one. A guy's on his phone. Right? He's on his phone scrolling, texting, do I need to pick up bagels for tomorrow as well? Or, so, just texting his wife or, and rams it in the back of a car because he's not. People drawing guns. Secret Service. Anyway, the incident happening at an intersection across from the entrance of Biden's campaign headquarters after Jill Biden got into the first couple's vehicle per the Pool report. Noted the president looked surprised as he stood near the vehicle. Does the president ever not look surprised? I'm sure he has no idea where the hell he is. Actually, his eyes were so buggy, he probably had just gotten an injection of the stuff, the amphetamines. That's what Alex Jones told Tucker last week, He says they have sources, and Tucker says, too, he knows there are people inside the White House that absolutely can guarantee the guy gets the stuff. He gets the juice. He knows there's drug use there. Wilmington Police Department spokesperson said in an emailed statement late Sunday that local officers were investigating the motor vehicle collision. So that's the first of a couple of incidents of rear-ending over the weekend. The other one, of course, coming out of the Senate chambers, the Senate hearing chambers. Fast Eddie, I don't know what to say about this other than Friday, I'm minding my own business. It's kind of a slower evening. I'm ready to settle in for a weekend. My Twitter feed just gets filled up with gay pornography. It's just one tweet after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another of guys having sex. And it's nothing I went seeking, but apparently half the people that follow me or I follow are now deeply, deeply interested in this story. Probably should have used a different descriptor. My point is, there was a guy yesterday, I'm not going to name him, but you didn't watch 30 Rock much, did you? Were you much into 30 Rock?
No. Sorry.
No, it's all right. There was a character in 30 Rock, one of my favorites ever, played by Will Arnett. It was a character called Devin Banks. And Devin Banks was the arch nemesis of Jack Donaghy, played by Alec Baldwin in 30 Rock. If you saw it, you know the character. Will Arnett's character, Devin Banks, is this closeted gay guy who is always trying to play straight, but just can't. He says stuff like, one of his quotes is, you win sex against a man and that's as straight as it gets. Right? Stuff like that.
Right.
So the bit is he's closeted gay, trying to play straight, but doing it poorly. There were a number of people on social media who just seemed entirely too interested in this video for my taste. One guy, again, who I'm not going to name, says, I watched this thing like 10 times, and every time I was like, what in the world are people watching this multiple times for? If you don't get what was going on upon the first few seconds of viewing it, I don't need to watch it multiple times, Fast Eddie. I've seen the picture of this guy splayed out on hands and knees on top of a Senate hearing desk more than it's seared into my brain forever, I'm sorry to say. I feel like it's like I've seen things in Nam kind of seared into my brain. I'm not going to be able to get this out of my brain. So,
The still picture was enough for me, man. Yeah, that was enough.
No, the still picture over and over and over. They kept superimposing, a picture over the... It was just enough. You're right. Still pictures, video, it was enough. Oddly, it was the only thing Lindsey Graham wanted to talk about yesterday on Meet the Press. I thought that was strange, but, he's a member of the Senate. I'm sure he wants to get to the bottom of it. Did you hear that yesterday? Lindsey Graham said there's no reason, he doesn't have any reason. Bruce from Family Guy said there's no reason whatsoever that Biden ought to be impeached as far as he can tell. He didn't see much at all there.
Impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Your colleague, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, said that he does not see any evidence, quote, that the president is guilty of anything. Do you agree with him? Is there any evidence so far?
I haven't really been paying that much attention to it. They have to prove that President Biden somehow financially benefited from the business enterprises of Hunter Biden. We'll see.
Have they done it yet, in your mind?
If there were a smoking gun, I think we'd be talking about it. But, the narrative that Hunter Biden presented is falling apart. The idea that Joe Biden knew nothing about the business dealing is falling apart. I'm not worried about impeaching the president right now. You know what I'm worried about? Helping the president bring the Mideast to a better spot. Trying to convince
so he
the
goes
Arabs.
and then he goes right back to his steady war drum beat. Doesn't see a bit of reason why this president ought to be impeached. No smoking gun, no reason whatsoever. He's been busy, by the way. He didn't have a lot of time to pay attention to this impeachment stuff and dealing with what Biden's up to. He wants to tend to this war in Ukraine, and of course he's got to get to the bottom of this video.
I definitely need a breath freshener. Ooh, but that's going to give me 11 items.
That's fine.
No. Rules is rules. Let's see what I'm going to put back. Okay, I need the Reynolds wrap and the bathroom tissue. I could do without the Triscuits, but they sure are good.
Sure are good. If there's any one man that's going to get to the bottom of this, it's going to be Lindsey Graham. So it turns out that the video that, if you were on social media, you really couldn't get away from, is a Ben Cardin staffer. If you don't know who Ben Cardin is, he is a senator from Maryland, Democrat. A junior aide to Senator Ben Cardin, no longer employed by the Senate, they said Saturday, quickly dispatching with him. Friday, this video surfaces, and by Saturday, Ben Cardin has quickly made quick work of his staffer here. Portions of the tape published by the Daily Caller on Friday showing two men in flagrante delicto in the cavernous I feel like Politico could have chosen a better word. In the cavernous Hart Senate office building, playing host to Supreme Court nominees, 9/11 commission hearings, and the former FBI Director James Comey's blockbuster 2017 testimony on Donald Trump. So, in other words, it's not the first time somebody's been rear-ended in this room. Cardin's office, after not commenting yesterday on what it called a personal matter, said in a statement first provided to Politico that a guy with a lot of consonants in his last name is no longer employed by the Senate. You know, it turns out also this guy doing gay sex stuff is one of these pro-Hamas guys. Apparently, people have been looking into this guy's resume outside of the gay sex he likes to have. And it turns out, like so many of these other leftists who don't even understand the irony, they're out running around cheering Islamists in their free time when they're not having gay sex in the Senate office buildings. Now, in a million years, will that ever make sense to you? I can appreciate you being a leftist. I can appreciate you being pro-Gaza, pro-Hamas. I can appreciate that, I guess. What I can't understand is being gay and being pro-Hamas. That I can't understand, because you'd be first in line. Like, if Gaza continued to stay in the hands of Hamas, you're not visiting Gaza. Like, you're not going to go to the parliamentary chambers of Hamas in Gaza and have your gay sex. Because I can tell you this, you'll be more than fired in Gaza if they catch you humping a dude in the Hamas chambers, if in fact they have them. I don't know. Or is there just a series of tunnels?
Under hospitals, yes, Chris.
Right. The staffer with a lot of consonants, hyphenated last name, posted a statement to LinkedIn that did not unambiguously deny involvement. I also don't know about LinkedIn. It's something I've never done. Is that a place you go when you've been caught having gay sex in the Senate office chambers? You go right to LinkedIn? Is that where you go?
I wouldn't, but I could see how someone in the professional world would. That's, where, like, pretty much where you're going for your next job.
Oh, so that it's like where suits, neckties go to look for their next, like headhunters and whatnot. That's the professional networking kind of a deal.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So for any prospective guys that might be looking to hire him in the future, he wants everybody to know that it's not commonplace that he has gay sex in official office buildings.
Right.
That seems like an interesting venue. Hey, those of you looking to hire, just know what you've heard about me having naked gay sex in official office buildings. That was a one-off, and I assure you, what a strange venue. I guess he would be looking for work.
I think he's trying to get the attention of Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib's chief of staff, see if they're looking, he's available now. So.
Yeah, that's right. He should go work for one of the ladies at the squad. I think that's right. That's a natural move since he loves Hamas so much, and so do those ladies. That's a natural fit. Of course, when you get into trouble like this and you've been let go from one job and you have to go to a new job in Congress, you often have to start at the bottom again. It's a little Monday. Anyway, it's been a difficult time for me, says the hyphenated guy with a lot of consonants and vowels in his name. I've been attacked for who I love to pursue a political agenda. So you see, it's the mean media and Republicans attacking him for who he loves. It has nothing to do with the fact that he looked like a back alley cat. He was like a rabid, mangy animal in an alley that hasn't been spayed or neutered in a Senate office building. That videotaping himself like some. I mean, when this kept popping up over and over and over and over and over and over and over in my feed, I was like, this is Sodom and Gomorrah. This is biblical. My reaction to it immediately was, of course, gay guys are filming gay porn in the Senate hearing chambers. Of course they are. And then I thought about Hunter's dime bag in the White House, which they say isn't Hunter's, but probably now a member of the White House's, which, not that we're surprised at that. And I think about the money laundering, and I just think about the horror show, that freak dance of the devils thing that Jill Biden put on in the White House last week. She called a Christmas show. It honest to goodness is like Satan himself has just completely swallowed Washington, D.C. whole. It is Satan on display, the likes of it. And I'm not usually one that goes there. You know, one off this or one off that. I kind of go, okay, well, you know, depravity, Washington, D.C., that goes hand in glove. This is something else. This is like stuff you read. Seriously, my Sunday school group, when we go through Bible study, you read certain chapters of Scripture, and you're like, oh, this is where God comes and destroys the whole city. Like, if Washington, D.C. just erupted in a ball of fire today, I wouldn't be surprised. Have you ever seen such depravity and debauchery on full display for all consumption? And by the way, they're not apologetic of it. This guy actually wants to make it our fault that we object to him humping like a mangy, horny, unspayed alley cat in the Senate office building that we pay for. He's the victim. It's been a difficult time for me. I've been attacked for who I love, and while some of my actions in the past have shown poor judgment, I love my job and would never disrespect my workplace. That's literally what you did, sir. You think it's respectful to conduct yourself that way? Any attempts to characterize my actions otherwise are fabricated, and I will be exploring what legal options are available to me in these matters. Can you believe that someone tells themselves they have legal options available to them to, in their minds, get even with someone for criticizing them having sex and videotaping it in official Senate hearing chambers? He's a victim and is looking for legal recourse. Only in 2023. He separately denied allegations that he had accosted Representative Max Miller in a Capitol hallway Wednesday by telling the Jewish lawmaker, "Free Palestine." Right. He had worked for Cardin since October 21. Previously, he worked as an intern for Di-Fi. Well, she wouldn't have known the difference. We know that. She long ago checked out. Peace be upon her. As I understand it, and I didn't spend a lot of time looking for it, nor do I watch the news on the weekends, but as I read and understand it, most mainstream media would not talk about this. Is that right? Is that what you're hearing? I mean, other than Daily Caller and other conservative sites and people sharing this on conservative social media, which, you know, God bless in 2023 that we, in fact, do have so many choices. Tucker Carlson has started one. Elon Musk, he's keeping Twitter open and free. Because you and I have so many digital news sources to turn to now, we no longer need the bigs. But if it was just the bigs and this story came to light, from what I'm given to understand, most of them completely ignored this, like it didn't even happen. And as far as NBC goes, an NBC News headline Saturday about a Senate staffer being no longer employed by Maryland Democrat Ben Cardin after a porn scandal framed the story around the conservative outlets that first reported the news of the leaked video. Politico reporting Saturday that other, quote, conservative outlets identified the person responsible. So this is a conservative news story, Fast Eddie. Just like the guy said, conservatives are being mean to him and he is looking for legal recourse. He just loves who he loves, and the conservatives are being mean to him. And I guess NBC and Politico both agree. This is just a conservative issue. I'm sure that if a Republican staffer, I'm sure if it was a Ted Cruz staffer having heterosexual sex on videotape in the Senate hearing chambers, I'm sure this wouldn't be a news story. I bet the left would write lovingly. Isn't that a lovely display of two people who love each other? Isn't that how they'd write that? Ted Cruz's heterosexual staff having sex and videotaping it in a Senate hearing chamber. Isn't that lovely? It's love on Capitol Hill, they'd write, I'm sure, right?
Chris, that news coverage would breach the parade, the Christmas parade. Like, that would be all over the place. The Sunday shows would be everyone commenting on it.
Or cocaine in the Trump White House. I mean, you could do this all day, of course. It's absurd. The idea that this is a conservative news outlet story. It's been my pleasure and honor to talk about Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, just off the Blue Route, as my dentist and friend of over 12 years now. But now he has two brand new associates, his daughter Alexa and Dr. Geddes. Tell him about him, Bob.
Yeah, it's really a thrill for me to have both the dentists, my daughter and Dr. Jared Geddes. One of the things that I love about them both is when they don't have a patient in their chair, they're in my room watching what I do and trying to learn from me. And we hear enough about the new generation and they think they know everything and they don't want to work. And I've got two dentists who are really, really want to learn and really, really willing to work hard. And I enjoy learning from them. They brought some new skills and some new technologies to our office that will be great benefits to our patients. And so, if anything, I think that having them both there is going to expand and lengthen my career as opposed to shorten my career.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. A lot of people want to know who's the other guy. I assume the other guy doesn't work in the Senate. Because I assume, is that like a pickup? I've been, by the way, this doesn't necessarily have to be a gay thing. I guess this could be anybody who is trying to pick up anybody. Hey, I have the keys to the Senate hearing room. Huh? You ever gotten it on in a Senate hearing room? Does that get you hot? I don't know. I could picture a guy saying that to a woman. Does that work in gay parlance? I don't know. Do men pick up other men by saying, what high-profile place, well lit with cameras, can we go have the sex? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's something. I've never had access to impressive rooms in which to have sex anyway. And if I did, I'm not sure I'd do it brightly lit on camera because I don't want to see that, never mind others that might see it later. I don't much like having my picture taken, never mind fully dressed and upright. You've really got to like yourself to, that was one thing I just never understood about people just generally. So, everybody has their proclivities, whatever, but I always thought to myself, you have to really, really like yourself to watch yourself. Like, I couldn't. That would end it for me. I probably would become celibate. I might go to a monastery after that if I had to watch myself. Ooh, is that what that looks like? Good grief, it's worse than I thought. Who needs Ozempic? Ooh, Anyway. Really what this is, honestly, in all sincerity, what this story really, it symbolizes, it's emblematic of a bigger issue. And that's just the degradation and the disrespect for our institutions broadly. I know you're going to think this is a weird place to go, but when I saw this, the first thing that I thought, and I'm serious, the disrespect of the United States Senate, led by who? John Fetterman. It wasn't too long ago that John Fetterman tried to make the case that we didn't need a Senate dress code anymore. He wanted to wear a hoodie and basketball shorts to the floor of the Senate to vote. And his colleagues had to reprimand him, even Democrats, and say, well, no, we're not. No, we're going to put on a jacket and tie and respect this body. I mean, Democrats tear down and disrespect every institution in the country. So why shouldn't a guy get rear-ended in a Senate hearing chamber? Why shouldn't he? On videotape for everyone to see. I mean, what does that building mean to them? What does taxpayer money mean to them? These places that you and I build and maintain with our dollars. That video, as grotesque as it was, is a metaphor for the disrespect Democrats have for all our institutions. Police, schools, the Senate, name it. Churches. There's not a thing the left doesn't want to tear down. Speaking of John Fetterman, this is a hilarious, inadvertently, unintentionally, hilarious. Excuse me, I got a little choked up. Little sipping music fest, Eddie. Okay. Goodness. I gotta. cracker. That's what it feels like. I just ate a box of crackers. All right, I'm good. John Fetterman, written about in this week's Inquirer by Panties in a Bunch. Will Bunch, one of the most loathsome toads in journalism, if that's what you want to call it. I've been dealing with this reprobate for years and years and years. He's mad at John Fetterman. Now, for all the reasons that I just laid out, that John Fetterman has helped tear down the institutions of the United States Senate, look at John Look, they brought in equipment to help him communicate, folks. He had a massive stroke and left the place to go into a clinic for depression. He so disrespected the office and so disrespected his voters. After a major stroke without the ability to communicate, he kept it from voters and won an election anyway. And then had to install equipment in the Senate to communicate with colleagues, only to then leave after a couple of weeks on the job to go seek serious treatment for depression. And I'm not mocking his illness or his depression. I find it abhorrent that he hid that condition from voters. And he thinks so little of voters, and he thinks so little of the body of the Senate that he lied to voters to get there, only to then leave it. So my point is, as you well understand, John Fetterman ushered in this new era of debasing, demoralizing, delegitimizing, tearing down of the decorum of the United States Senate. He single-handedly is responsible for it. And yet, Panties in a Bunch over at the Philadelphia Inquirer has the most amazing write-up. You won't even believe it. Fetterman's betrayal of progressives is why young people are turning off politics. This guy actually believes that John Fetterman is somehow turning into a conservative right before our eyes. He's not progressive enough, and he's causing young people to lose hope in politics. It is the most... I'm not going to read it all. But here's some. Some progressive voters. You want to guess why he's mad at John Fetterman? Why John Fetterman's not progressive enough for him anymore? Punchline. 2 reasons. Only 2. He cites exactly 2 reasons why. You want to guess what they are? You know. You've read them already in there, Fast Eddie. He actually acknowledged that we have a problem at the border. He didn't even say build a wall or close it down. He's not gone that far. He's acknowledged that people are concerned about the free flow of thousands of illegals and the fentanyl coming across the border. He acknowledged that his voters and his constituency are concerned about that, all right? So that's issue 1. He acknowledged people are concerned about the free flow of drugs and people at the border. Just acknowledging it is a betrayal of progressives. That's first. Second betrayal, not making it up. The reason John Fetterman is not a reprobate progressive anymore is because he doesn't hate the Jews. He supports Israel in their defense of themselves against Hamas. These 2 things are literally the only 2 things that Panties in a Bunch at the Philadelphia Inquirer cites as the reason why young people are turning away and turning their backs on John Fetterman. Listen. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. If Fetterman continues this, I know Will Bunch writes this as though it's a big warning to a guy like Fetterman. That down the road, 4 years, 5 years from now, when he's up for re-election again, he'll never win because all the young people will run away from him and they will support some other progressive other than him. Folks, what he's doing is actually the first sophisticated thing I've ever seen out of him. It's pretty clear to me that John Fetterman has decided to pivot to more centrist issues in Pennsylvania that make sense to most people. It makes sense to most people that our border is secure, and it makes sense to most people that Israel has a right to defend itself from Islamists who slaughtered them. That makes sense to most Americans. These are not hard or radical positions. They are to Panties in a Bunch. I totally get it, he says, in response to someone in the column he writes feeling betrayed. I get it. As an opinion journalist who's covered Fetterman since that 2016 race, the senator has not been the man I once thought he was. even by the lowered expectations of his moves toward the center in beating back Mehmet Oz last year. Where did he move toward the center in the Senate race, Fast Eddie? Can you tell me exactly where John Fetterman ran as a centrist? There was nothing centrist about John Fetterman. John Fetterman is one of the most radical. The man is, he's well, I'm not going to relitigate it. If you think John Fetterman is some kind of centrist blue dog Democrat, I got a bridge to sell you. He's one of the most radically progressive members of the United States Senate by a lot. I do applaud it when politicians buck partisan politics for a moral center, as Fetterman has done, calling for the indicted colleague Senator Bob Menendez to resign. But incidentally, where are the calls for that? Where was Will Bunch's column about that? Where are the fellow Democrats calling for Bob Menendez to get out of the way? Nobody. Nobody anywhere is doing that. But ignoring the plight of slaughtered civilians in Gaza and dropping the pro-immigrant vibe that drew people to him in the first place, that feels like any moral center has caved in. So supporting the idea of closing our borders is anti-immigrant. Got it? Supporting secure borders is anti-immigrant. Skipping ahead, in the Panties in a Bunch column, a Harvard poll earlier this month found that 18 to 29-year-olds are so put off by a likely rematch between Biden and Trump, fewer than half are planning to vote, which would be a disaster for Democrats. He says, this is the part of the column where, as a boomer, I'm supposed to hector the callous youth for not seeing the threat of fascism under a second Trump White House. That threat is all too real. Now, here comes the tripe, the pat tripe that these leftists say all the time, that if you don't vote, if young people don't turn out and vote, if you don't vote for Biden, young people, the menace of fascism under a second term of Trump will march across the country. He says, telling young people to swallow their bitter brand of political porridge who think that yelling "save democracy" but offering nothing else is a strategy. Now top Democrats are using the threat of Trump as a cudgel to quash any sign of intra-party dissent. This is very interesting from Panties in a Bunch. He's basically saying that Democrats shouting Trump, Trump, Trump all the time isn't going to be enough. Really? Well, that's all you do. I mean, there's only two things they're going to shout. There's only two things Democrats are going to shout all next year, and you know what they are. One of them I've already said is Trump. The other one is abortion. Trump and abortion, Trump and abortion, Trump and abortion. They're not going to talk about it. Panties in a Bunch is kidding himself here. What issues would you have Democrats talk about, you moron? That's all you write about. You're obsessively writing about Donald Trump. Almost every column. Fascism of Trump and our democracy. You never define it. Nobody knows what that means. They just say it over and over again. Fascism, democracy. Fascism, democracy. As if those words mean anything to you people. As if you don't recognize and understand the fascism we're living under right now. As if you don't understand we're not a democracy at all. And as if you have any interest in preserving it, please. How are young voters supposed to feel, he says, when one party has become an authoritarian cult, taking away their rights, and the other party won't fight for things that truly matter? I don't know what planet this guy is on. So his impression, after the week we just had last week, I believe if you were here Friday, you know exactly how I feel about the Republicans. They rubber-stamped everything the Democrats wanted. The Democrats got everything they wanted in that defense appropriations bill. The Republicans got everything they wanted stripped out of it, and they rubber-stamped it and went home. And Panties in a Bunch has the audacity to write that Democrats won't fight for the things that truly matter to them. Democrats have literally, we are watching the decay and the destruction and the decimation of our institutions because Democrats are running roughshod over this country and its institutions. Everything about this country is being destroyed from within by Democrats. And he says because John Fetterman supports Israel and acknowledges there's a problem at the border, he's not loyal enough? And shouting Trump and democracy isn't going to be enough? Authoritarian cult, taking away their rights. What is he talking about? Fascism is the government using private... Does everybody understand? Maybe this is an important time to stop and just reframe what is fascism. Fascism is the government using business as a sock puppet. Do you understand that? By definition, fascism is the government using big business as a sock puppet. Which party is the fascist party? Which party controls big business in this country? Republicans? Are conservatives running big business in this country? Are big companies, big corporate outlets in this country being run by conservatives? I don't think so. I think we all understand DEI and CRT. I think we all saw what Bud Light did. I think we all know who's running Pfizer and who's in bed with Pfizer. Please. The 2010s brought real hope, he said, for folks who believed America could change for the better. Occupy Wall Street. Black Lives Matter. These are the things Panties in a Bunch cites as big wins for progressives. They were the most destructive. That was the Barack Obama era that ushered in the most destructive. This is exactly what I mean. Because John Fetterman is not fully committed at all times every day to the total destruction of our institutions, he's somehow gone soft. Got it? That's the punchline for a guy like Panties in a Bunch. Sick. These are sick people. Okay, fellow harumphers and podcast listeners, my friends at gulagamerica.com want to invite you in to celebrate Christmas and Happy New Year with a big discount on all their stuff. Great stuff. Have you been to gulagamerica.com yet? They're our newest sponsors. A woman wrote me on Facebook the other day. She said, how do you spell that? Okay, I didn't consider some people might need to look it up. Gulag, gulagamerica.com to help you celebrate the holidays in this period of inflation and even into the new year. Gulagamerica.com is giving you a big discount if you use my promo code when you shop. You'll take 20% off all apparel orders at their online store if you use the promo code Chris20. That's Chris20 when you check out. All right, and they're keeping this sale extended through January 6th. All right, so again, it's promo code Chris20. The sale extends till January 6th at gulagamerica.com. Really funny graphic tees and hoodies. There's a newer one that says, I went to re-education camp and all I got was this totally awesome t-shirt. I love that. My particular favorite, and it's one that I had a friend actually ask, hey, can I get my hands on some of those? I'm going to have to buy a couple for my buddy. The GFY, the vintage-looking, it's a parody logo. You'll have to see it online at gulagamerica.com. The GFY with STFU treatment. It's escaping me, the name brand that it's parodying. It's like a motor oil, I think. GFY. That's an homage to Elon Musk's big speech at that symposium where he told Bob Iger of Disney to go F himself. Anyway, they made that into a shirt, like they do so many great things at gulagamerica.com. You got to see some of these stuff. I love them. Or if you need a great last-minute gift, gulagamerica.com gift cards are also an option. If you'd like, somebody would really like these. That's what I might do. I might just give my buddy a gift card from gulagamerica.com so he can order the size that he wants. You can also print on demand. So there's no discount on the purchase of a gift card, but I do want you to know, otherwise, Chris20 is your discount for the apparel you shop online, okay? 20% off straight through the 6th of January. And we thank our friends at gulagamerica.com for being great sponsors and friends and founding harumphers. And as they always say at Gulag America, it's not their wish, it's their warning. All right, Jonathan Turley continues to be interesting over there at Fox. In his Hunter Biden analysis, before we get to him, inside Jen Psaki is very concerned. She's the former White House spokesmouth, and now she's taken a paid gig over at MSNBC for a show nobody watches called Inside Jen Psaki. And so over there at Inside Jen Psaki, she's very, very disturbed as the former spokesmouth for the White House that Hunter Biden won't shut up. Listen.
So the risk for Republicans is that come election day, they are seen focusing on the wrong things, not focusing so much on the economy or immigration, but on what could potentially be a meritless impeachment. The risk for the White House is that it becomes a distraction.
Jen Psaki, you had this surprise press conference by Hunter Biden this week. Did it help or did it hurt?
Look, I think if you're sitting in the White House right now, you're like, please, Hunter Biden, we know your dad loves you. Please stop talking in public. This is not helpful to any of them for him to be out there. But at the same time, the president loves his son. That takes precedent over anything else. That is appealing. I'm thinking of the woman in your focus group who talked about family. He loves his son. He loves his family. He's worried about his mental health. But yes, the White House would like him to probably go away, right?
Oh, he loves his son. Kristen Welker, like a warm hug. A little puppy. Oh, he loves his son. Does that make you puke? Every time this reprobate surfaces in the news, this coke-addled, gun-chucking, stripper-humping reprobate who laundered money and bagged cash on daddy's name, we're all supposed to go, oh, Joe loves his son. Oh. This works on people, apparently. I guess it works on Kristen Welker. So inside Jen Psaki, my apologies, inside Jen Psaki was on Meet the Press. So she was inside Jen Psaki, inside Kristen Welker.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And so Jen Psaki still, even though, loves his son, she still said, shut up. Just please shut up. You're not helping matters. Jonathan Turley, who is a Democrat and I presume voted for Biden, he does not like Trump, did not vote for Trump. We know that. He voted for Hillary. I assume he voted for Biden. But on this Hunter Biden thing, he tells Fox News over the weekend, Hunter Biden has committed a federal crime here in showing up last week with Captain Douche and then hightailing it out of there. He was subpoenaed to testify, and he skipped out. And that used to matter. We used to arrest people in leg irons at the airport over that, reminds Jonathan Turley.
Karine Jean-Pierre said that Biden knew about Hunter's stunt, his defiant stunt, where he didn't show up for his deposition. And you said that this was a breathtaking mistake. Why?
Well, there are about 4 articles of impeachment that are the most likely to be pursued by the committee. One of them is obstruction, another is the abuse of power. Having the president involved in advance in any way to the contempt of Congress is the worst possible scenario for the Biden team. I can't imagine how that could have occurred. It's not that you're telling a father not to speak to his son, but you give very clear instructions that it's in neither of your interest for you to discuss his testimony before Congress. It certainly wouldn't be in your interest to talk about the potential commission of a federal crime. Contempt of Congress is a federal crime, and the Department of Justice aggressively pursued people like Bannon and Navarro for not appearing in a committee. So if the president knew about that in advance and supported it, it just gives another front for Congress to pursue in this inquiry.
So I don't know if Joe knew. I'm not sure Joe knows where he is on any given day. I hate to give Joe Biden credit for knowing much. Do you think Joe Biden knew that Hunter and Captain Douche were going to go out there and do their little press stunt last week and then take off and not show up for the subpoena? You think Joe Biden knew in advance, counseled his son not to go in there and testify?
I think Jill would have told him. Yeah, absolutely.
Jill or Joe? You think Joe, the president?
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, she wants to stay. She wants Joe to stay president. So like, if Joe doesn't understand, she's there as his, aide. Yeah. Like, I'm sure Joe did know.
Oh, so you feel confident that Hunter was told, don't go in there, or at least they collaborated on the decision not to go in there and basically commit contempt of Congress. Okay, well, yeah, Turley said if that's true, he's just compounded things. And if you're going to be consistent here, he continues that the Department of Justice, and, I can't believe he did this with a straight face, but he says if we're going to be consistent, Merrick Garland is duty-bound to treat Hunter Biden the way they treated Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon.
And it's about the relationship of the president with his attorney general. We know the DOJ is independent, but it says this: Biden's relationship with Garland, his attorney general, which has already become more frigid, is now tense. Those close to Biden argue Garland's trying in vain to satisfy bad faith GOP critics. One person unflatteringly compared Garland to Comey, saying that both have been obsessed with the appearance of having integrity. What do you make of this?
Well, if it's frigid now, it's going to be perfectly glacial if the House moves to hold his son in contempt. Garland is already on the record. His Department of Justice pursued those earlier cases. It just took a couple of months before Bannon went from not appearing to having an indictment. So I don't see how Merrick Garland could do anything but prosecute Hunter Biden if the House approves a contempt resolution. But the interesting thing is that Garland did something for Biden that was invaluable. He refused to appoint a special counsel to look into the corruption scandal. Many of us have been writing for years that we can't even imagine his rationale. Joe Biden's name is all over these files. There's millions of dollars going to his family. And the circle is coming closer and closer to the president. And yet Merrick Garland has simply refused to appoint a special counsel. And so I think President Biden's got to give more credit than he's giving him.
Right. So you have people leaving the DOJ in the Trump administration that write books and go on talk shows about what a reprobate Trump is. I remind you, Bill Barr and everybody else, they're basically throwing wood on the fire that Donald Trump should be arrested or jailed or whatever. Merrick, this is the point here again. Democrats always stick together. Jonathan Turley has just beautifully laid out why Merrick Garland, if you're any kind of decent, law-abiding American, you can't avoid basically arresting Hunter Biden at this point. And you can't ignore investigating the pretend president and his son and their money laundering operation. You can't ignore it. And yet, Turley reminds us that he has gone out of his way to be helpful. This is so duplicitous. This is, and yet you will hear the left scream and screech about our democracy and norms and authoritarianism. And folks, we're living it right now. We're living through utter lawlessness right now. Our chief law enforcement officer in the country will not enforce the laws as they apply to the Biden family. And they should apply to all of us the same, and he won't do it. And yet they dare talk to us about authoritarianism and the dangers of Trump. There's nothing more dangerous than not evenly applying the law. Trying to jail the opposition to Joe Biden while leaving Joe Biden completely alone when his son has behaved in this blatant, flagrant manner. Anyway, I know you understand that. It's just, I wanted you to hear it. Hey there, Merry Christmas from Mike and My Pillow. They're working hard to make the savings as big as possible so you can give some great gifts to either yourself or somebody you love. The gift of a great night's sleep. There's very little you can give that's better. I know personally that these Giza Dream Sheets help us sleep like babies at night. We own 2 sets of them, as a matter of fact. And right now, Mike is selling these Giza Dream Sheets for just $29.98 when you use my promo code Stigall. So you go to mypillow.com, and when you click on the radio podcast listener square, type my last name, Stigall, or type Chris, or whatever, or both, and you'll see the price drop. A set of pillowcases, just $9.98, in addition to that big half-off sale of the Giza Dream Sheets. You can get a whole MyPillow mattress topper for just $99.99. They also have blankets in a variety of sizes and colors and styles. We have one of those too. Even blankets and dog beds for your pets. Get duvets, quilts, down comforters, body pillows, bolster pillows, so much more. And all of it deeply discounted when you use my name, Chris or Stigall or Chris Podcast. You can't go wrong. They're also extending their money-back guarantee for Christmas straight through March 1st. So that's quite a deal. You basically get like 3 months of a money-back guarantee if for some reason you're not happy. It's a perfect gift for you or anyone you love, friends, family, everybody. MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Chris or Stigall or Chris Podcast. Or you can call today, 800-932-5056. 800-932-5056. Use the promo code Stigall and get that Giza Dream bedsheet sale, just $29.98. And all your shopping, get it done while quantities last, because these sale prices, they're going to clear out fast. MyPillow.com or 800-932-5056. Promo code Stigall. Bill Maher was absolutely spectacular this weekend. In fact, I have made it my Harumph Society newsletter today. I thought this monologue was so important. I am posting it as a standalone in its entirety as my newsletter today. It's that important. And just out of the interest of time, I'm not going to be able to do it all here, but here's a good chunk of it. And I'm going to sit back and let it wash over us all because it's worth hearing. It's incredibly important. Bill Maher, Friday, Real Time, HBO.
Was it unjust that even a single Arab family was forced to move upon the founding of the Jewish state? Yes, but it's also not rare, happening all through history, all over the world, and mostly what people do is make the best of it. After World War II, 12 million ethnic Germans got shoved out of Russia and Poland and Czechoslovakia because being German had become kind of unpopular. 1 million Greeks were shoved out of Turkey in 1923, 1 million Ghanaians out of Nigeria in 1983, almost 1 million French out of Algeria in 1962. Nearly 1 million Syrian refugees moved to Germany 8 years ago. Was that a perfect fit? And no one knows more about being pushed off land than the Jews, including being almost wholly kicked out of every Arab country they once lived in. Yes, TikTok fans, ethnic cleansing happened both ways. In Fiddler on the Roof, the family is always moving to stay one step ahead of the Cossacks, but they deal with it. When they're leaving Anatevka, they say, hey, it wasn't so great anyway. Come on, like other countries don't have roofs you could fiddle on. Now, that's not how they really felt, but they were coping. They coped, because sometimes that's all you can do. History is brutal, and humans are not good people. History is sad and full of wrongs, but you can't make them unhappen, because a paraglider isn't a time machine. People get moved, and yes, colonized. Nobody was a bigger colonizer than the Muslim army that swept out of the Arabian desert and took over much of the world in a single century. And they didn't do it by asking. There's a reason Saudi Arabia's flag is a sword. Kosovo was the cradle of Christian Serbia. Then it became Muslim. They fought a war about it in the 90s, but stopped. They didn't keep it going for 75 years. There were deals on the table to share the land called Palestine in 1947, 93, 95, 98, 2000, 2008, and East Jerusalem could have been the capital of a Palestinian state that today might look more like Dubai than Gaza. Arafat was offered 95% of the West Bank and said no. The Palestinian people should know your leaders and the useful idiots on college campuses who are their allies are not doing you any favors by keeping alive the river to the sea myth. I mean, where do you think Israel is going? Spoiler alert, nowhere. It's one of the most powerful countries in the world with a $500 billion economy, the world's second largest tech sector after Silicon Valley, and nuclear weapons. They're here. They like their bagel with a schmear. Get used to it. What's happening to Palestinians today is horrible, and not just in Gaza, in the West Bank, too. But wars end with negotiation, and what the media glosses over is it's hard to negotiate when the other side's bargaining position is you all die and disappear. I mean, the chant from the river to the sea. Yeah, let's look at the map. Here's the river, here's the sea. Oh, I see, it means you get all of it. Not just the West Bank, which was basically the original UN partition deal you rejected because you wanted all of it and always have, even though it's indisputably also the Jews' ancestral homeland. And so you attacked and lost, and attacked again and lost, and attacked again and lost. As my friend Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you? Look at what Mexico used to own. all the way up to the top of California. But no Mexican is out there chanting from the Rio Grande to Portland, Oregon. Because they chose a different path. They got real and built a country that's the world's 14th biggest economy now. Because they knew the United States wasn't going to give back Phoenix any more than Hamas will ever be in Tel Aviv. One of the leaders of Hamas says, save yourselves time and imaginary dreams. In a few years, Allah willing, you will have to discuss the situation in the region after Israel. I'm sorry, who's the one with imaginary dreams? If I give you the benefit of the doubt and say your plan for a completely Jewless Palestine isn't that all the Jews should die, what is the only other option? They move. You move all the Jews. Okay, I gotta warn you, there's gonna be some kvetching. You move all the Jews, and we do this with what? A fleet of trucks called Jew Haul? And to where are we moving this entire country? Texas? Sure, they have room, and I guess we could put the Wailing Wall on the border and kill two birds with one stone. Or we could just get serious.
Powerful monologue from Bill Maher. So important to me is that monologue that I have made it my standalone. And that's not the whole thing. There are a couple minutes more to it. The entirety of it will be my newsletter today at the Harumph Society because I think it's that important, and I hope you'll share it. You know, I was in Bible study yesterday. We were reading from Isaiah chapter 40, and it just struck me, the entire chapter, of course, but very specifically, he protects his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms, and he carries them in the fold of his garment. He gently leads those that are nursing. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hands or marked off the heavens with the span of his hand? Who has gathered the dust of the earth in a measure or weighed the mountains in a balance and the hills in scales? Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord? Who's given him counsel? Who did he consult with? Who gave him understanding and taught him the paths of justice? Who taught him knowledge and showed him the way of understanding? Look, the nations are like a drop in a bucket. The nations are a drop in the bucket. They are considered a speck of dust on the scales. He lifts up islands like fine dust. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are considered by him as nothingness and emptiness. Who will you compare God with? What likeness will you compare him to? It just struck me. It's Isaiah chapter 40 about comforting God's people in the middle of torment and conflict. And it reminds you borders and nations are nothing. God's will be done. God's perfect will be done in his time. And no one will stop it. No nation, no army, no border.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.